Welcome to PUREHUSTLE Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 391.
Yes,
I gotta
391. It's crazy.
It is. I'm still in shock. I just think about how many recording hours we have spent putting together this podcast. And then I think about the people that are like, hey, by the way, I'm catching up to your podcast. I'm on episode like 247. I'm like, wow.
Oh man,
like
you got a wild ride ahead of you still, man. There's a lot. There's a lot coming. You just wait. You thought you knew what was going on with PUREHUSTLE Podcast back in the first couple hundred episodes, man. Once you start approaching 400, things get wild. I'm not sure when the whole Black Swan event was in there, but man, it's reselling has definitely changed. You know, can you imagine like going back now and like listening to like how naive we'd sound about certain things, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, one of our guests sent in some hand sanitizer. You know?
Yeah, no, I know. I one day, I mean, I don't know if I'll listen through it all, but it'd be interesting because yeah, these conversations, like we never would have thought we would talk about the idea that I'd be traveling across the country to buy stuff to like hair clippers. That hair clippers would be a bolo, right? Or like, you know, kids Peloton bikes would be a bolo or whatever it is. And that hand sanitizer, we had to reach out to the reselling community because I couldn't find any. And a reseller sold some to me. Actually, they didn't tell it to me. They actually sent it to me. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? So
crazy time. And that just goes to show, man, we got a good community here, good community of people, which again, thank you for all of you who are listening to our podcast right now. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the like and subscribe. And if you're not watching on YouTube right now, go on over and do that because we drop Monday episodes every Monday. They're a little bit shorter. We've been going live recently. That is kind of our plan going forward, at least for the foreseeable future, is to be live every Monday. And the cool thing with that is we get to interact with you. So make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube so that you don't miss those live interactions that we get every Monday. So Orlando, what are we talking about today on this episode 391?
So in the past few weeks, I've been mentioning how eBay has not been reliable for me. And I feel now is the time for me to change things up, switch things up. You know, I was tried and true on eBay. eBay was the way. And then something happened. And I don't know what it is. And I'm not here to get into conspiracy theories, but I think it's time for me to kind of branch out. So as I've branched out, I've been doing Whatnots every Thursday. So if you haven't joined us for a Whatnot yet, join us tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure to bookmark that show. And, you know, I'm like, I like this. And Whatnot, and we'll talk about this, but Whatnot has done a lot since the last time we were on Whatnot. It's actually far better. Like, it's actually improved. It's innovated. It's a lot easier to use, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then, you know, recently we've had the partner deal with Vendu, and I've been doing cross-posting, and I've been seeing things on Poshmark that Poshmark is doing, and on Mercari and some of the other platforms. I'm like, okay, you know what? I think eBay has lost a lot. And we just mentioned this in our last live. We had a whole live about, is eBay losing traction? Is it falling? Is it collapsing? And a lot has changed. And so I'm thinking now, is eBay the only way? So I thought in this podcast, we kind of flesh out our ideas a little bit. And maybe at the end, we'll come to a conclusion, or maybe we just leave it open. I'm not sure. But at this point in time, I don't know if eBay is the way. And one of the reasons that got me questioning is there's a lot of good things, and we'll talk about those good things first, but there's a lot of things that I'm kind of like, what is eBay doing here? So now, do you find eBay still the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's tough because right now I think eBay still is a powerhouse, but at the same time, I kind of look at it like there's a part of the story Pilgrim's Progress, which is like an allegory, and there's a part in that story
back
where
to grade school, man.
Yeah. So as the protagonist Christian is walking along, he goes by two giants, and they're like dead and decaying, but there's still like a little bit of life in them, and kind of the thing that is kind of brought up with that is like big systems of power, big systems of, you know, whatever. They can start to like fail and basically be a dead man walking, as it were, but still have some life in it. And I almost wonder if that's kind of where eBay's at, because yeah, it still holds this prominent position. It's still probably holds the biggest amount of buyers on the secondary market. But the question is it going to be able to adapt? Is it going to be able to bring in the younger buyers? Is it going to continue to grow, or is it going to be replaced? Are other companies and programs going to be taking what I kind of consider vertical slices out of eBay, right? They're not necessarily like eBay's big horizontally, like they reach all of these different markets. They have all these different categories. But then you have another company come in and they kind of are like, they take a big chunk of the shoe section, or another company comes in and takes a big chunk of the the vintage toys, and another company comes in and takes the clothes, so like little slivers of eBay is kind of being chipped away at by different organizations, different companies, different reselling platforms. And so, yeah, like maybe no one of them alone is the one that is going to completely crush eBay, but you throw it all together. And if people continue to kind of join their little islands, which I think we see in social media anyways, is people, they're more and more clicked up into like individual groups. They kind of find their people, they kind of isolate with that group. And so I think we might see that with like reselling. People are going to find the thing they're into and what platform sells that. So it's a big question of what's going to happen. But let's talk about some of the strengths of eBay first.
So obviously eBay has been the game in town for the secondary market. Even with Amazon showing up, Amazon does have a strong secondary market as far as used electronics, used video games and stuff like that. But eBay's still the place that people go to when they think of used. Usually when people think of Amazon, they think about new items. They want to get it quick. And eBay does have the largest amount of buyers. Now, it's kind of interesting. I was looking up some data. eBay peaked in 2018 with 179 million buyers. Okay, and now they're down to 135 million. So they picked up a sum over the event that happened in 2020. I think they got up to like 150, and now we're down to 135. Were you going to say something? It seemed like you wanted to jump in.
No, I just mean like, so was that number US or was that worldwide number?
That was worldwide. Worldwide.
179 was the total they had
in
worldwide
2018. Yeah, the amount of buyers.
Okay, and now it's at 130. You said
it's at 135.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge decline. Like if you saw that kind of decline in any business, I mean that's scary. I mean, of course, there's going to be some peaks, and I would imagine that it would be more common to see like, hey, like we've had a 5 or 10% drop in net profit because expenses have gone up and various things. But if you're losing that percentage of your customer base, I mean, even though that's still maybe the biggest, like that's still a big percentage of your customer base that is now gone.
But it's still massive. I mean, when you look at like Poshmark has only about it's hard with these stats because no one has like the up to date. Sometimes they're the 2023, but not much has changed from 2023 to 2024. But Poshmark has about 30 million in the US. But the problem that Poshmark has is they don't have international reach, right? There's no international shipping, right? So if you're listing on Poshmark, there's only those 30 million eyes. Where if you're going on eBay and you're choosing to do international shipping, you have about 135 million eyes. So to me, it's still the place I go to. It's still, the only place, not the only place, but it is the one I depend on the most, right? Because there's a lot of buyers. But I'm beginning to think like, maybe there's some space. And a lot of people have been saying this for a while, but I'm seeing it more now. And we'll talk about those reasons later. But I want to assure people, I still do think eBay is the number one game in town when it comes to the secondary market. The question is it that the only thing you should be throwing yourself into, right? And a lot of people go back and forth on social media. Some people are like, hey, you just got to know eBay real well and expand out. And I think there's truth to that. Others say you got to, as long as you have a certain niche on eBay, you'll do well. But I don't even know if that's true anymore. Just because, yeah, like you said, that's a lot of buyers that have been lost, right? They've been lost to other marketplaces. They've maybe people just stepped away completely from eBay. And so I don't know what the reasons are, but as we talked on the live the other day, I would think by now eBay would just be trying to carry these numbers, right? eBay would be doing everything to bring people in, and maybe they are, but they seem to be struggling. Now, I will say the strength that makes them king overall at this moment, I do think is their international program. I think their internet.
I don't know. I might disagree with you. Tell me why you think that's their strength.
For two,
I think it's
two
a
reasons.
strength. I just don't think it's the strength.
2 reasons. It brings in all the other buyers, right? All the other buyers that other secondary platforms don't have, right? Depop doesn't have this. Grill doesn't have this. I don't think the Real has this. A Mercari, It doesn't necessarily have this. And on top of that, they make it easy, right? Selling internationally on eBay is really, really easy, right? All you have to do is ship it out to, for me, it's Commerce, California, which is, a few hours away, or I have to ship it to Glendale, Illinois, depending where you're at, and they'll take care of the rest, right? And they actually, right now, they have it, that you can't get negative feedback from it. If there's a return, they'll take care of it. So to me, that provides a lot of strength. You can't do that on other platforms, right? I sell stuff for high money, real quick, to high money to people outside of the US that they can't get items inside the US. But had eBay been only continental United States, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's a strength for sure. I wouldn't argue that. I think we've both had great success with the eBay International program, or back when the global shipping program, all of that. We've found success with those programs. I would just argue that, like, even looking at, like, it's almost a false comparison to say, like, hey, if you sell on Poshmark, you're only getting whatever the number is, maybe 30 million eyes on it. But if you sold on eBay, you're reaching this worldwide audience. Well, probably 90% of the stuff or more that's selling on Poshmark is stuff that's under $50, probably closer to $20, $30. Now, these aren't the items that are going international, right? Like, there may be occasionally, like, somebody's like really after like a unique dress that they can't find or something, but typically international payments, they're going to have to pay so much more for shipping that, like you said, it's the big ticket items, right? It's if somebody's already spending $600 on something because it's unique and rare, they're okay spending a couple $100 in shipping on it as well. So I think that the international program is definitely a strength, but I don't think that, like, hey, the vast majority of the items in my store, which are just kind of bread and butter, $20, $30 net profit items, those aren't reaching all of those eyes at the same level as, like, an item that's really unique and rare. So it's like, I wouldn't say, like, I get that many more eyes on every single item. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I think your chances are greater of selling, right? If somebody were to ask me, Orlando, where should I start reselling? And this is actually episode 1 of our podcast. Right? If you go back to episode 1, I still believe the same thing 391 episodes later. Like, it's eBay. If you want to sell your stuff, you go eBay. Now, we'll talk about some of the weaknesses in eBay. So, for example, listing on eBay is very tedious in comparison to Poshmark or Mercari and some of the other sites, but you still get the most amount of eyes. And even if we remove the international, we still have the most amount of eyes. Right now, I don't have data. I couldn't find data that separated how many are international and how many are US. And maybe it was an easy search and I just didn't type in the right words. But I still think there's a lot more eyes. And even in, let's say, pop culture, right? You're watching a movie and, there's a line, somebody's like, oh, where'd you get that shirt from? And like, oh, I found it on eBay, or, it's always eBay. No one goes, I found it on Poshmark, or I found it on Grail or Depop or Shopify.
And that's the thing, is I think you're right in the sense of, like, in almost meme boomer or Gen X style humor on TV, right? Like, cause that's what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about, like, you watch a movie or you're watching a TV show and then, like, eBay is brought up. So I think you're right. Like, I think to the audience that those TV shows and movies are reaching, you're probably right. But for instance, if I'm talking to coworkers who are new teachers and they're all between the ages of, like, 21 and 26 because they just got out of college, they kind of look at, if they mention or know of eBay at all, it's kind of that meme idea of, like, oh yeah, like the eBay thing, like, that's like the old person they buy. They're like, oh, where'd you get that shirt? Oh, I got this on Poshmark. Oh, I got this on ThreadUp. So the actual discussion that's happening in pop culture, like actual, like, popular culture that's happening more on, like, that level, like what people are talking about on social media, I think tends a little bit more towards those brands with that demographic. Now, again, that may not be the demographic with the most amount of money and purchasing power at this point in time. But if you're trying to look at the longevity of eBay, I still think that it's they have to do something to get that Gen Z, right? Like, Gen Z is the key. I think millennials kind of are on the fence. They can go either way as far as whether or not they want to be trendy and be on things like ThreadUp and Poshmark and those types of things, or are they going to be more towards eBay? Whereas Gen Z, I don't think really eBay is as much on their radar at the same level. Where I would say that eBay's strength, like the thing that's going to probably be the most powerful, is the data that they have. And I look at this in two ways. One, the data that we have as sellers, right? The fact that we have Terapeak, the fact that we have so much information we can look at, like previous solds, we can go back years now, we can look at trends, we can look at so much stuff. So we have data. But on top of that, I think it's eBay's strength for them is that they have the data that they have. Because if you look at what Amazon basically was initially, was just like a logistics company that took tons of data, even with things like streaming services and like movies people were watching and things people were buying. And then they use that data to push advertisements and products, right? We know the people watching these shows on Amazon, the people who are buying these products will also buy these products. So we can push the ads to be more effective. So what they really have been able to do is capitalize on the just insane amount of user data that they have. Which can be very, very powerful. And I think that's where eBay kind of shines over other platforms that are a little smaller, like Whatnot or things like that, is they just don't have that kind of data where they can really determine who's buying what, how can we manipulate the algorithm to ensure people are seeing the items that they need to see, how can we reach targeted demographics, whether it's on social media. So I think if eBay utilizes its data well, the user data, unfortunately, but that's really what it is, I think that they can use that as their kind of trump card.
Yeah, no, and part of it too is, as a seller, the Terapeak data, right? The fact that now they're going handheld, they're going on the app, handheld. That's my Gen X talking there. So they're going on the app, right? It's going to bring a lot of value, right? You're going to be able to go out there and source, and you're going to be able to see, shipping. Like if something is something that has to be sold and majority of people are selling it free shipping and it's a larger item, you may not source it because you're like, wow, if I charge shipping, I may not get that sale for the price that these people are selling it for. I'm not going to pick it up. You can't do that on other platforms, right? I no one uses Mercari, no one uses Poshmark. Maybe some people do, but Poshmark or Grailed or Depop or all these other platforms to do comps, right? No one looks at comps. Now, every once in a while, like I'll do a Google lens and I'll look at something and I have to kind of figure out how much it's worth. So there might not be an eBay listing, but there's like, a Facebook marketplace listing and I'll comp it out that way. But generally, eBay is the place that you need to do research if you're going to be reselling. Right now, there is WorthPoint. We'll talk about WorthPoint later on in the podcast. But eBay's strength is if you're a seller, there is no other marketplace app that allows you to buy things that are profitable. And you could do that with the other ones, but not as well, right? Because like you said, eBay gives you, data 90 days, 30 days. It gives you up to 3 years. It gives you whether people paid for shipping or not. It gives you whether people, bid on things or whether they did buy it now. It gives you the condition of the item. I mean, it gives you all this data. And so you're able to make more informed decisions. And so eBay, like you said before, I think that's one of its key strengths. Now, to me, the number, not the number one, it's hard. There's no number one here. But something that's really important is I do think eBay is the most, I know a lot of people are going to disagree because, Poshmark has you can go hang out and have dinner or something. Remember that? We went to some of those. Remember I went like in a t-shirt and basketball shorts and I was underdressed. But but I do think eBay is the most seller centric out of all the platforms. That's my sense. In the sense that not only do they just establish community, or they try to through eBay Open or eBay seller events or eBay, I think it's open, I don't know, whatever you call it, but I can actually get a hold of somebody when I call, right? Or I can go to eBay seller help and I can try to remove a defect. Or, if I'm selling something international and somebody wants to return it, they'll handle it. Or if something breaks in transit, they'll handle it. All these other platforms they can't. Like, they don't have the capital to provide those kind of protections, that kind of customer service. And I know customer service has gone down over the last 2 or 3 years. It's not what it used to be, but it's still far better than other platforms. Amazon's gotten a little bit better, but I will tell you the other ones, trying to find somebody, trying to talk to somebody, trying to message, on Poshmark or Mercari or all those others, it's pretty brutal. I don't know, what has been your experience when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times there's less pressure on the other sites, right? I feel like eBay, there's a little bit more seriousness to the account, to your reputation, to your store. I feel like on a program or platform like Poshmark, if something goes wrong, it's not as big of a deal for you as the seller. There's not as much repercussions. That may not be the case on other sites. In fact, I've heard, I haven't sold much on Etsy or anything really on Etsy, but I hear that Etsy kind of has some strict policies. So it may be that, if you're on a specific niche, on a specific platform, for instance, I'm thinking Amazon, they're going to be very, very strict and rigorous with their requirements for their sellers. But I think what makes eBay feel like it has good customer service is because it's so serious, but you also have avenues that you can go to, right? So if something goes wrong, you can reach out to eBay, you can get some supports and help. But I think part of that is because ultimately we are their customers, right? We're the ones listing the items. Like, they're basically a brokerage company in a way. They're just holding the thing. If we don't list the items, nothing gets sold. They don't make any money. So although our customers are a customer of theirs in a way, we are the ones really that are the primary customers for them. So I think that they understand that for the most part. I still think, of course, they're going to put their most energy and effort towards the big dollar sellers. I just think of when we did eBay Open, the car part sellers that were multi-million dollar sellers. Of course, they have a special place in eBay that a small scale mom and pop shop or garage sale type store just could never have. But eBay still recognizes, the things we need and whatnot. So yeah, I think they have decent seller protections and customer service, and I wouldn't complain. I think there are issues, of course. But again, that's one of those things where whenever there's a problem, right? And so that's where it feels so big. But the fact that 90% of the time, 99% of the time, there's never problems. Things kind of just run smoothly. I think we could forget that. You could forget the fact that usually things are running smooth, and it's that time of like, eBay didn't remove this thing, this bad customer, and you've got your story, and everybody has those stories. But if that's one out of the 200 sales you had in the last couple of months, it's like, is that really that big of a deal? So yeah, I think they have pretty good customer service.
Yeah, no, and I like their seller protections. I can't complain. Have there been opportunities that they could have done a little bit better and maybe not sided with the buyer? Sure. But, overall, there's times where I just think recently where I shipped out something and the item was taking forever to show up. It was lost somewhere. So I ended up refunding the buyer, and then I contacted eBay after it showed up, and I'm like, hey, this item arrived, but I already refunded them. And they said, hey, you know what? You provided great customer service. We're just going to take care of it. We will, in the end, we're not going to take money from them, but you're going to get the money back because you delivered on your item, and we'll take care of you. Right. And I find that other platforms, that's a tough thing. I find that eBay is willing, as long as you do everything right. Right. And you got to be very careful about who you listen to, because sometimes people will make these huge stories about how eBay worked against them. But then if you truly hear the story, there's always something in there that was left out. Right. Maybe their description was off. Maybe the picture is off. But there are times where everything was 100% accurate and you still lost. And that does happen. But I say overall, I think eBay does a good job of treating both of its customers, I think. I think well. I want to say well. I know some people will not be happy with that, but I think they treat us, who are their customers, well, and I think they treat the customers who are the buyers well. Now, one company that does treat everybody who signs up well is My Reseller Genie. And if you're stressing out, you're like, oh, it's getting the end of March, I don't know what to do, taxes are around the corner. Listen, you can just relax and you can just sign up for My Reseller Genie, and you're going to be able to import all your eBay items from 2023. And so, all your shipping costs, all your seller fees, and not only that, but you can also track your profit and loss, your cost of goods, all those items that you're stressing out about. You can still do it. There's still time. So if you haven't signed up for My Reseller Genie, go to our link below and use our code PUREHUSTLE, and you'll get 15% off the first month. And also, we are running a promotion where you can get a free month of My Reseller Genie by just leaving a comment. And so we already announced our winners for January and February. And by next podcast, we should be announcing our winners for March. So if you haven't, got it in there yet, make sure to say something in the comments. That's, helpful.
Just just to clarify on that, we're going to be drawing one person who leaves a comment. So you've got to leave a comment in order to get in that drawing. So get in there, leave us a comment, let us know anything you want, maybe something you've sold recently. What are your thoughts on eBay? Do you think it's the way? Is there another way? Is Orlando crazy? Is Mike crazy? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below.
There we go. All right. So you already went into some of these, and I think there's a lot to talk about. So let's about the weaknesses of eBay. Why are we even having this conversation about whether eBay is actually the way? Because I would say back in when we started the podcast, I would go like eBay is the only way. I wasn't even talking about cross-posting. I was kind of like, just put all your efforts into eBay. And then I fluctuated back and forth. And then for the last 2 years, I've been like, it's only eBay. And now recently in the last few months, I'm like, I don't know if eBay is the only way. And so what are some of the weaknesses you see here, Mike, when it comes to eBay?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the big things is eBay, because eBay is so big, and that's one of the things that we have to remember, is there are pros and cons to being a big organization, right? Like huge organizations, huge systems have a lot of power. They have a lot of influence. They have a lot of, like we talked about earlier, they have the data that they can pull from. There's a lot of benefits for being very big. One of the problems with being that big is it's much more difficult to be innovative, right? Like, Alana, you know what this is like in any field. Like if you're in a program, a system, and it's just like 2 or 3 people working together. Like think of me and you with the podcast. If me and you decided like, hey, let's try going live on Mondays. And it's like, yeah, let's give it a shot and see how it works. And we just do it, right? But if we were, a big organization that had, 3 bosses we had to talk to, and each one of them had to clear it with somebody else, and then they had to talk to marketing, and it's like, well, we got to pilot this, we got to try this, and well, we don't actually have the infrastructure for that yet, so let's put that on the list. But part of that is IT stuff that needs to get done. So basically, what I'm saying is that eBay can be slow to change, to adapt, to adjust to things that need to be changed. And they recognize like, hey, we might need to do new things. Like, let's make the background removal, right? They come up with it and they set it out, and it works when it comes out. It's interesting. It's a little clunky. But then as the technology just like speeds past them, they kind of have a hard time keeping up, because again, it's probably a team of IT people that have to work together. And then, well, what do we have to change on the systems? What do we have to change on the user interface? Whereas a third-party program can kind of just say like, this is the only thing we're doing. We're not really worried about, because I remember that when I worked at a call center, if you had suggestions or ideas that you needed to have done, like, it would be cool if our system did this. Like when I try and type in a comment about a customer, I have to click these 3 boxes. It would be nice if it was all just in one spot. Well, we could submit that to IT. And if we like talk to people high enough up in the company, they would say, okay, that actually made it to like our tier 3 level. So we have to get complete all of our tier 1 and tier 2 projects before we can consider looking at the tier 3 ones, because these other things take priority. And so I'm sure it's the same way with eBay. They might be like, yeah, cool, background removal, that sounds great. We got some teams working on that. But also we have to fix X, Y, and Z, or the system doesn't work at all. So because it's such a big system, it's going to have a hard time innovating and moving and adapting, which is where other companies like, Poshmark or Whatnot or other, things that kind of come up, they have a little bit more flexibility because they don't have so much to adjust and change. And even new, like if a brand new company started up, they get to kind of be even more innovative. So it's a blessing and a curse being big. And I think in this instance, it could be a detriment to them.
Yeah. And I think I'm glad it's usually the other way where I don't know. I just feel like you're being really nice about it. I think this is eBay's major failure. Like this should have been stuff that eBay has taken the lead on like years ago. Right. I mean, there's such a huge company, right? And I'm going to rail on this again, like immediate payment. Like this is of all the things, right? Immediate payment on offers should be resolved by now. It should have been resolved before they even initiated send offers, right? Send offers is something that came about, I think it was like 2020, maybe 2021. I can't remember when it was. But even before they rolled that out, they should have been like, you know what, by the way, we want to make sure that people are, paying for their items right away. Let's make sure we have this working. But they didn't. And, we had a conversation in 2019, I believe, with one of their execs, and they had promised us that immediate pay for best offer was going to be fixed. All right, this is before even since the offer was fixed. And even that hasn't been fixed yet, right? So to me, that's a weakness on eBay's part. The fact that they've been around for so long, they have so much money in comparison to all these other companies, that they could have resolved this. Like the photo background, right? The fact that this last seller update, they're like, hey, by the way, we're doing background removal 2.0. And it's like, what? Why didn't we just get it right the first time? Right? Why was it such a mess the first time? So much so that I ended up having to use third parties like Photo Room to figure things out, right? Because Photo Room's pretty flawless. Like I have no issues with Photo Room. We're not getting paid by Photo Room here, but Photo Room has been great. On the other side, with like the data, we talked about how great it is that they have data, but why do I have to go to WorthPoint and pay $27.99 a month to get eBay data from 10 years ago? And you might say, well, the cost of the servers and maintaining all the images. Yeah, okay, I understand that. But again, if eBay is the biggest game in town in the secondary market, this is something they should prioritize. That's my sense, right? To me, when I look at Terapeak, I think it's great and I'm happy. And, I even know the people that work with Terapeak and I think they've done a phenomenal job. But the people above their pay grade, they got to think of like, why is it taking us so long for us to now have 3 years of data?
Again,
we should have been doing this for years.
I think part of this though, again, comes down to like, okay, like this is important to us. So it seems like a big deal, but you got to remember like our type of reselling where it's like used goods, specifically like the type of used goods we're doing, not like car parts or not like, really, really, really high end stuff. We're a very small sliver of what eBay is. Right. And so then of the people like that who are in that market, the people who probably care for 3 years of data is probably a small sliver of that. So you're looking at maybe only a few percent of their entire user base that sells on eBay like cares to look at 3 years of data on a consistent level. So that change, even though to us it's like that would be great to do, I think they need to do it. They should have implemented this earlier. But from eBay's perspective, if it's like, okay, we have a limited amount of time, resources, energy, all the things we're trying to do. Okay, we have some needs coming from the people who make up.
They have money on all these other. They have money on all these other programs that in the end do not help me as a reseller, right? And I'm not going to get into all the programs, but there's a lot of. If this was congressional spending, it would be called pork barrel spending, right? Like things that just get added on that in the end, do they help the reseller that's full-time, that's trying to make a living? No, they don't. Does it help them facade-wise? Sure it does, right? But there's all this other money being spent when it could have been used to innovate, right? And I'm just being frank with eBay. And again, I know people that work at eBay. I love eBay. But I think somewhere, whoever is calling the shots, like these are things that should have just been taken care of. Like by now, go ahead.
I know we're gonna have people in the podcast or in the comments saying like, Mike, you're wrong. Like eBay needs to do this, and I agree. Like I wish eBay could do those things. I'm just trying to look at it from the perspective of them and like who we are to them. Like really, like we're such a small part of their company. And so, yeah, if they've got two options, I mean, think back when you were an administrator, right? You got teachers coming to you with all these crazy needs. And some of them are like, we need a complete change of the schedule. The schedule system needs to change. And you're like, okay, that's going to take crazy amount of effort and energy. Or like we could do this other little program that's going to take very little because we also have, 100 other things. And we've got accountability and state stuff and other things coming down. So changing the schedule to a different block or a different whatever is not on the radar right now. And it's only 3 teachers asking for it. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where we have to look at it, where it's like, if there's only a certain percentage that it would make really sense for them to do. And I do think it's good stuff that they should do. I think it would benefit eBay and it would probably help them take a bigger chunk of that market. And again, they're losing customer base to other platforms because they're not innovating. So I'm not saying that they're right in not doing this. I'm just trying to recognize that they're putting their money in other things. Like I bet you the amount of time and energy they put into like the auto parts probably far exceeds the budget and energy and time they put into secondary goods of like lower level stuff like we sell.
Okay. All right. No, I see that side. I will have to agree to disagree on that one. All right, what about this one? The hoops that you have to jump through if you sell on eBay. Like I find that when I'm talking to somebody, like I'll give you an example. I'll be at a garage sale, right? And somebody finds out that I sell on eBay, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I used to sell on eBay. You know, maybe I should list these on eBay. You know, what do I have to do to sell this item?" And then I have to start breaking down, like, okay, well, you need to make sure your pictures are good. They don't necessarily have to be, white background, but make sure that you're able to at least, take clear pictures. Make sure they're good. On top of that, you're probably going to have to offer some kind of return. Also, there's this thing called promoted listings, and you're going to have to maybe promote your item depending on what it is. And then on top of that, recognize that there's an algorithm. And so with that algorithm, you also have to make sure that you have shipping that's pretty efficient. It's pretty fast. Also, you need to take a look at, you have to be listing every day. So if you just have these 5 garage sale items today and you're hoping to sell these and you only list those 5 and you're hoping that it'll sell in a month, it may not sell in a month. Right. So I keep having to, bring up more and more like things to add. It can't be like, oh yeah, just go on eBay and just, take some pictures, upload it and put a description and it'll sell. Like that's not it. Like there's a lot more in tow that you have to do in order to sell on eBay. And to me, I think that's a problem.
I mean, I don't know if I would say that that's like, those are barriers that just don't exist anywhere else. Like every platform is going to have barriers to entry. And the reality is you don't have to do all of that stuff. That might be best practices if this is your business, right? If you want to get certain sales, but if it's just somebody at a garage sale and they're trying to sell something, I mean, really the basic premise is list it, make sure your price is lower than everybody else's. And if people want this item, yours is going to be the one that sells. And I think that's going to be true, right? If somebody's got a DVD set of a whole TV series and they're selling it for $10 and the next cheapest price is $20, their $10 one is going to sell, and it's probably going to sell pretty quick if people are buying that. So
I don't know.
I don't think you have to go into all. I mean, it is true. I mean, if
there's 30 listings of that same DVD set
and you're the cheapest, yours will sell.
No, I don't know if that's true.
If you're the cheapest,
if you're brand new,
yeah.
If you're brand new, I don't think that's true. But
I think
again,
it's true. I think especially if you're brand new, like especially because I think that the
okay,
algorithm,
I see that point. I see where you're going.
But even if the algorithm didn't push that, I mean, if right now, like any item in your store that has and of course you could say like, okay, some of my items are being shadow banned, some things you can't find when you search. So sure, I think that's the case. But if I just open up a store with one item listed and it's an item that people are buying, and it typically the average sell price is $50 and I list it for $25, it's going to sell. So I think,
no, go ahead. I would just say, I hope that's true. My concern is it going to end up on the first page just because of the price?
I think it does, because like, I just think of, for instance, I've been buying like books, right? So that's an example of something that's a little bit more rare, the books I'm looking for. And by rare, I mean that there still might be like 50 listings of this book. And it's really easy to see the ones that are like the cheapest price. Like it just comes up. Like if I'm trying to buy the book, I put in the title, maybe a few of them are higher price. Some of them are, better quality, and those come up to the top. But within the first like 10 or 15 that I look at, I'm going to see the one that's the cheapest price. And I could scroll through any more pages that I want to look at, and I'm not going to find one cheaper than that. So yeah, the cheapest prices for sure will show up on the first page. If it's significantly cheaper, if you're like, I'm 10 cents cheaper, I mean, that's probably not going to make a difference. But if you're 20, 30% cheaper, and I'm not saying that everybody should do that. The point I'm trying to make though, is like, if you're just trying to tell somebody, like your friend is like, hey, I have this item I want to sell. What do I need to do? I don't know if you need to like give them like the full Pure Hustle podcast, reselling techniques and strategies and promoted listings and all of that. I mean, if they're trying to turn it into a hobby, or they're trying to turn it into becoming potential resellers, sure, that they're going to need to learn those things. But I mean, in the same way that you don't need to teach, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's where I would land on that. And I think that there are obstacles to overcome. Like, I think it's easier to sell something on Facebook Marketplace than it is to sell something on eBay, right? So if all you're doing is because you have to deal with things like shipping, so I do think there's bigger barriers of entry for sure than some platforms. But I mean, I'm trying to think of any other platform, like trying to explain Poshmark to somebody, and then you got to share your item, and then you got to go into other people's stores and share their items. Or if you're trying to explain whatnot, and you're like, and then you've got to like, imagine you're doing like an Instagram live and you sell the items, and when the people buy the items, and people will be bidding, right? That like every platform is going to have some barriers. So I wouldn't say it's a weakness.
But it's not as easy as just saying, oh, just go on eBay and just log in and just take some pictures and upload it. Like those days are gone. And maybe they were never here, but I remember it was a lot easier. Like when I talk to people now about algorithms and promoted listings and free returns and top rated seller status and all these different things.
You're just in too deep, man.
But I want to help them be successful, right? That's all I'm saying is like, if you want to be successful, you have to know those things. Like if there's a person that, I mean, maybe they exist, but a person that never has done anything. They've never listened to a podcast, and never watched a YouTube, not gone to any eBay thing, and they've just strictly gone on the website and listed, and they've been successful. I don't know. I find that hard to find. All right, hey, real quick though, before we move on to our hustle of the week here, the last thing here I just want to say, I think there's just a lot of competition now, a ton of competition. Like it's, and I'm not saying it's saturated. I'm just saying there's a lot more involved if you want to be successful, especially as a full-time seller, right? You can't just, like I said earlier, you can't just list things, right? And so, this is why I go on Vendoo. I mean, if you haven't used our code, PUREHUSTLE, okay, it allows you to spread out, your listings to Mercari and Poshmark and all those places. And by the way, it's 25% off if you use our link in our code. So if you haven't used Vendoo yet, use it. So I just thought I'd throw that in there just because people, I thought about last time I didn't talk about the 25% discount, and I thought they should know about that. So make sure to be aware of that. But here's the thing. You can make sure that you get your items in front of other eyes by using Vendoo, and maybe you spread out that competition. Not saying that Poshmark isn't competitive, not saying Mercari is it, but you have more opportunities to sell your item. And this is why we talk about Vendoo. This is why we're okay partnering with Vendoo. But, I think that's one of the weaknesses of eBay is that there is so much competition. I don't think it's eBay's fault that there's so much competition, but I think it's done some wonky things with the algorithm where I don't know. I know I don't want to get into conspiracy, but I think it has to somehow distribute sales to keep everybody on the platform still selling, right? It can't just go to the top sellers all the time. Like you said, right? Somebody brand new, they're going to get those sales. Like you got sales right away and this was like 6 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. When you started being serious about eBay. So I just think there's some interesting things there with eBay. And so that's kind of our weaknesses, but let's talk about some success stories here. Some hustles of the week.
Yeah. You want to talk about come on, hustlers. It's the freaking hustle of the week. Yeah, hustle of the week. All right. So our first one, I gotta get this actually set up because I do dual, kind of like a dual screen here, so I could see you and see the notes. But the notes are so small, so let me make them a little bit bigger here. So our first one comes from EJ. And this was an email that we got. So by the way, don't forget to email us. We love getting emails from you. We love getting phone calls from you. So it's not just Instagram. So here is the email. First time hustle of the weeker here. A few months ago, I was at a thrift store and was having a dry day. The thrift was full of resellers, but I kept on digging. I was looking through the jackets and randomly decided to look up an older corduroy jacket. I saw only one comp
Arnys.
And decided... What's that?
Arny, ARNY'S.
Okay.
Did you say that or did you say older?
I haven't gotten there yet. I said corduroy jacket.
Oh my bad.
Oh.
All right. Anyways,
yeah. This says older. Anyways,
okay,
I saw one comp and decided to take a chance on it for $6. When I got home, I did some research and listed an Arnys Corduroy Jacket for $1,000. I took an offer of $900 from someone in Japan. Going back to that idea of the big items, this jacket was nothing special to look at, so it's never a bad idea to keep an open mind. Man, $900 for a jacket? Jeez, $6
that's
and $900.
That's
huge. That's amazing.
I just did a search on eBay right now, and it's like, yeah, Arnys, ARNY''S. Like, they sell for big money. $6, dude. Wow. You know, Mike, that's the one thing I do love about reselling is like you're always learning. Like, I've never even heard of this brand my entire life. Not once at all. So, all right. So this one comes from Cosmic Deal Heather, who has been on our Hustle Week multiple times. She also has an awesome YouTube channel. If you should go check it out, it's also Cosmic Deal Heather. And she posted this on Instagram. I wanted to share this because this is where I'm always on social media, not only because of the podcast, but there's a lot of stuff I'm learning from other resellers. And you get it faster, right? TikTok's one of those places where you can get info fast from resellers. And it's good info. Instead of, sometimes you'll watch a YouTube, like they're like, how to pack something. And it's like a 20-something minute video. And you're like, that if it takes 20-something minutes to pack, I don't want to watch it. Like, just give me the 5-8 minutes, I mean, we've done ours, but we make it at least 8 minutes because we want to at least get one ad. Okay, let's be real about it. But I'm not going to go forever. So I like TikTok how it's quick with the info. So Cosmic Deal Heather bought a pencil sharpener, 6 or 7 years ago, new in package at a thrift store, and didn't think there was much value, and so actually used it, like opened it, put it, like she in this reel that she has on Instagram, she actually put it in a pencil pouch, where you put pencil sharpeners, and it sat there for 6 or 7 years. And then was on TikTok and saw that pencil sharpener. Somebody was talking about how they miss it, it was nostalgic, they remember having it. And so she did some looking, and she looked on eBay, and these go for like 30, 40, 50 to $100. Okay. Whoa. And so listed a Fooz lava lamp pencil sharpener and sold it on eBay for $99. So almost $100 free ship. Had they not seen that TikTok, they would have just been using that pencil sharpener. But now they have $100 and they could buy, 100 pencil sharpeners if they want, even more. So nice work to the Cosmic Deal, Heather. Good stuff.
Think of all the pencil sharpeners you can buy. You're going to be pencil sharpener rich now. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
It's one way of looking at it. All right. Our next one, Dave from the Discord. So picked up a Wolf built-in steamer. So it steams cooks foods, and it was on Facebook Marketplace for free back in November. So it was missing the lid, so he priced it to sell, and it just sold on eBay for $499 plus $140 shipping. Holy smokes, from free $99 to $499. Think about that. And to think about, for $140 shipping, this is a big item.
Yeah.
That's not a small item.
But let's say it took them even 2 hours to pack. Like, I would do 2 hours of work for $500.
No.
It's totally worth it. So, yeah, I got to tell you, there is a lot of money like on stovetop, like cooktops kind of stuff. There's some resellers out there that make really good money doing that. So yeah, there you go. Have you ever sold anything from like an appliance?
Oh yeah. Have I sold appliances?
Yeah, well, like a bigger appliance for like good money.
Yeah. I mean, I sold an actual like commercial coffee machine, like full size. Like it was on like a, it was a couple hundred pounds, like big giant one that would be inside of a like an actual coffee shop or something. So yeah, I mean, I've sold a few things like that. I've sold also a cookie maker that was, I don't know how, it is like the size of like maybe a big microwave, like an oversized microwave. So I don't know if that would be like appliance size, like a refrigerator or something, but it's still not small.
There's money to be made. If you know what you're looking at, there's money to be made.
Right. There's money to be made too in like the parts and pieces. That's the other thing. A lot of people, like, if you want to get into that niche, because I think of how many things I've just repaired over the last few years, and of course a lot of things you can now get like off market or third party items and get it relatively inexpensive off of eBay. But certain items, if you got like an old refrigerator, an old washing machine or something like that, you're better off just getting parts off of another one. And yeah, it's crazy like how much you can make with that kind of stuff if you know what you're doing, for sure. Or being the person that fixes those things up, buy them because they're messed up and then put a $60 part into it and sell it for a bunch. So yeah, there's a lot that can be done with that. All right. So my hustle of the week, I don't have like a juicy one that I can like share like the specific titles. But I've been getting more and more into books and doing the eBay arbitrage thing. And so this is the best part of reselling to me, is when it could be part of your own like interest, where it, like you've said with, doing the toys, doing the vintage toys, you actually enjoy doing it. So you probably don't mind like looking up comps. You don't mind, looking through listings. I've kind of found that with like certain books, there's collections I'm trying to make, right? Like I find of some obscure author, some obscure book, it's kind of hard to find. It's not, a mass produced thing I'm going to be able to go pick up in Barnes and Noble or something like that. So I like to get them for myself. But again, once I know like, okay, here I've looked at enough of this copy of this book that I know what they should go for. I know what they should, what they tend to sell for. And so I was able to find a lot of like 3 or 4 books. And normally most of the booksellers on eBay are like actual booksellers. Like that's what they do. You can tell in the name of the seller. It's like ABC Books or like Books for You, or, like that's the name of the store. And so that's what they do. They sell books. So that's most booksellers. But like occasionally you can find like the people like me and you, where we're just selling stuff that, are in our collection. It's random things. I found this set of books, I'm selling it. Now, those are the best, especially if you can get something like a lot of books put together, because they didn't know what they had. They didn't know the value of it because they didn't spend the time looking up each item, each what it's worth. And so I was able to pick up 3 books, but particularly in this lot, that I know are each going to sell for probably $30-$40 each. And I only paid like $25 for it. So it ends up being a decent little hustle there.
There you go. There you go. All right, so mine is there's a lot to this. There's not a lot, but so over a year ago, it's going to be almost 2 years ago, I picked up a huge kind of like multiple car full of items from a family friend who's moving, and they had all this vintage stuff. That's when I bought like all those Redline Hot Wheels and all these vintage toys. And actually, speaking of that, I did sell like a vintage stove, not a stovetop, but it was something that you put like where the clock and the timer for like $500 a piece. But that's not my hustle of the week. Well, part of that is a bunch of posters that were hanging in one of the bedrooms in this house because they're trying to sell the house. And there were a bunch of like psychedelic posters, the ones where you put the black light on them and stuff from the 70s. And I took them down, and they were just hanging out in my eBay, not the eBay room, but the podcast room where we record the podcast. And you've probably seen them rolled up. They've been there forever. And I just was like, one day I'll list these. One day I'll list these. One day I'll list these. Well, I finally listed them. Unfortunately, with these posters, you got to be really careful. I actually tore one of them like down the middle, and I probably lost like $200 on one of them. And so I learned to be more careful. But these posters, they were like, wow, like they had dragons. One had like aliens. It was like green, glow in the dark. I can only imagine what people saw when they took certain elements when they put these up in their room. Like, I don't even want to know, man. But I've had these posters for forever. And so I finally decided to list them. And sure enough, sold one. One was so funny. Somebody's like, this is going to be so awesome. I'm moving into my first house. And, like when people think of housewarming gift, right? I think of like a coffee table or a coffee book or maybe like a desk. No, this was a huge like green and black poster of a bunch of aliens glow in the dark. Like something that like if in the middle of the night you saw this, it would like freak you out. But they bought it and they paid $81 for it. Then I sold another one for $100. And then I sold another one for $80. And so it just goes to show you again, like these death piles, like just get them listed. Like there's money in there. I'm pretty sure when I picked these up, they're probably worth more. But I'm glad I listed them. I still have a handful of them that I want to list. What was kind of crazy tied into that story. I don't know if I mentioned this, that I also had some like some rock performers at that time, like Jethro Tull, Janis Joplin, like all these performers posters. And they go for like $60-$70. And somebody reached out to me on eBay and they're like, hey, by the way, where did you get these? Like, I actually took those pictures. And I was like, what? Whoa. Like you were there? And I was like, well, these were actually a family friends. Like, I'm just a reseller. Like, but if you have any more, I'm willing to buy. And then I never heard from them again. Like they just they ghosted me. They probably weren't happy that I was reselling their pictures. But anyways, yeah, you just keep an eye out for those psychedelic posters because there's good money in them, and you never know why people buy them. So thank you to everyone that shared their hustles of the week. The reason we do these is to encourage you that you just never know. You just never know. Like, get out there, go sourcing, garage sales, thrift stores, local auctions, even retail arbitrage. You never know what you'll come across. And one way you can source too is with Whatnot. If you haven't sourced on Whatnot yet, there's a lot of items. I have somebody that recently, Mike, every Thursday, I'm like, wow, you're always buying. They're like, yep, I'm sourcing. So people are sourcing from me and they're getting great deals. I start all my auctions off at $1, but here's a way you can get stuff for free. So if you haven't yet, you can use our link below and you get a free $15 on Whatnot. You don't have to spend it at my store, which not is my store. It's the Pure Hustle podcast store. You can spend it anywhere else, but it's a free $15 for you. It gives us a little bit of a kickback since it's an affiliate link, and it's a win all around. All right, let's talk about the alternatives to eBay. Let's talk about what other places are there that eBay isn't the only way. And I'll do this one real quick just because I was just talking about Whatnot. I got to tell you, now that I've been on Whatnot, close to a month, and I've been there, I've been watching a lot of people, I've been doing it myself. I got to tell you, Whatnot has created a really easy way to make quick money. Now, you do have to sell 1,000 items before you get your money like instantly. But even then, if you're like, hey, I need to get some money, like, I don't want to spend the time listing on eBay. I don't want to have to deal with the shipping on eBay, which Whatnot does shipping, but they make it really easy. Like, Whatnot's a great alternative. Now, you're not going to get as much money as you would on eBay or on Poshmark or all these other places, but I think eBay lost the opportunity to be innovative on live streaming. Like,
the question
Whatnot, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's fine.
I was just gonna say with the idea of a quick way to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you basically just pawning your items off with more steps and work though? Like, would it be easier to take these items to a pawn shop and just pawn it and have the cash in hand and not have to like ship items and do it's one thing if you're like listing the items, you got a big enough audience and you're like making a decent enough amount of money in return on the items. But if you're like
pawn shop's gonna buy used clothing,
sure, and that's what I mean. Like, okay, like, but almost like the way you made it sound is like it's a quick way to make money. So if you need money, you have inventory, you need to offload some inventory to get some capital. Like, do a Whatnot auction. So it's like, yeah, maybe if you've got used clothing, but probably the clothing that's gonna sell really well on Whatnot is gonna be like vintage items and things that are gonna be that kind of stuff. I would imagine pawn shops would take.
But I look at it this way, like, there was a
just ask.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you could go to a pawn shop. I would say probably for most resellers, and I'm just throwing an arbitrary number out there, at least 50-60% of their inventory they couldn't pawn at a pawn shop. They just couldn't. Like, it'd be tough. Like, oh, here's some Merrell shoes. Do you want? Can I? What would you give me on these Merrell shoes? I don't think a pawn shop will take them.
So right? Maybe that's a strategy we need to take. Like, maybe we need to make sure we're sourcing items that you could pawn. Might be a good, that might be like a good indicator. Like, should I pick this up at a garage sale? It's like, okay, how much could I make at a pawn shop? Worst case scenario. Okay, I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm just, that's a good idea. Like,
we're talking about eBay, right? And so Whatnot, when I look at Whatnot, it's like, will eBay ever like unleash live streaming? Like, they talked about a year and a half ago, and the only people I see live streaming are some influencers on there that are doing some collaboration with eBay, right? And I'm just like, okay, why did you even mention it when you're not even going to allow, so not even like the top like eBay influencers on YouTube, right? Like, I've never seen Riley Russo live stream. I remember Pete, Craigslist Hunter, months ago was so excited about doing live streaming, thinking it's going to change everything. And then crickets, nothing happened. Not to Pete's fault. I don't think it was Pete's fault. I think eBay just dropped the ball. And Whatnot in the last, I would say 2 years since we did it, even when we did it, it's been 2 years when we had that, that 3-4 hour where we sold an eBay store. Like, they've innovated. One of the things like I think is fascinating is, I've been doing this thing called random pulls where like I don't even put pictures or describe things. They're just called random pulls. And so I just pull from a rack and auction it off, and then I put the number on it, and then I know which random pool. And I've confused myself sometimes where like a random pool fell off or something happened. And guess what? I can go on Whatnot and they actually have a video receipt of when that item sold, which I think is pretty cool. Like, I think, to me, that's innovative. Like, somebody thought of that. I didn't even think about that, right? I was actually thinking I would have to go to the Whatnot show and I'd have to, like, go to the minute that I sold it and I have to make sure and keep it in line. No, there's a video receipt on it. So I'm looking at these things and I'm like, why isn't eBay doing this? Like, I remember when eBay launched their live stream, like beta, they showed how like you can just pull up your listing and then pictures of your listing would scroll on the bottom so people can look at. You don't even have to have a rack. You don't have to do anything. You can just use your pictures. Like, it was all set, but what happened? So for me, it's, hey, if you want to get into the live streaming, like, you could wait forever for eBay, or you can just go to Whatnot, who has their act together and has, I think they have things figured out. I think their shipping, it's not as cheap as it used to be. Remember when it used to be like you buy one item and every item extra is $1? It's not like that anymore. But there's still deals. Like, if you buy a certain amount of items, like, they bundle the shipping and so on. And for a seller, it's really easy. All I use is pretty much USPS boxes. I can use their flat rate boxes, like kind of like Poshmark. I can use their non-flat rate boxes, and it's all good, right? So I'm saving on supplies. Where eBay, right? You have to buy supplies, right? You have to wait for that $50 coupon, and I'm just like, well, what happened here? Like, why did not eBay just take the lead and run with it on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I still think the biggest thing eBay should have done is, because I'll never forget, and I think he was onto something, but I think they missed the point when we were at eBay Open, and they mentioned the idea of like wanting to have, they wanted basically like an eBay warehouse where things were coming out of. They wanted to be Amazon. And he said, like, imagine every, all the number of boxes that get sold, through eBay every, day that nobody knows is eBay. They just go in random boxes. Like, imagine if every box on porches said eBay the way like Amazon's does. And I'm thinking, why can't we just do that? And I've said this before, but eBay should basically make their boxes as close to free as possible for their sellers. Like, they should just be at cost. You get them at you pay shipping and that's it, because it's a market. It's marketing for them. Like, if you could almost guarantee, and they'd have to be wise with it. It would have to be probably based off of, because like, what do? They give us a coupon once every quarter. Like, hey, you can use this to buy supplies. That's just not enough. Like, it should basically be like, hey, you've sold 1,000 items this year and your items tend to be these dimensions. Like, you can get, 500 free boxes next year. Like, what sizes do you want? And we'll send them to you. Like, that should just be what they're doing, because if you knew that most of your boxes were just going to be free and they're going to be eBay branded, it's going to make life much easier for you. And then again, think about how eBay benefits from this. Like, eBay would see, like, people would see eBay all over the place. They'd see packages that say eBay. That would help eBay. So, I think, seeing that other companies have done stuff like that. It's more like shipping prices. Like, if you're a seller, you're selling on Poshmark, it's easier for you, right? Because you sell through, you put it in the packaging that it fits, and you ship it out one price. You don't have to think about it. But just imagine, like, why eBay as big as they have, if they could do that and then take it a step further and say, and use our boxes to ship it.
Agreed. And by the way, when we talk about, we went to eBay Open, we're talking about 2019. Like, that was a long time ago. Like, there's been plenty of time for them to figure that out, So, all right. Now, do you think that these alternatives like Poshmark, Mercari, Depop, Amazon, The RealReal, ThreadUp, you think they've allowed other sellers to thrive in other places where they could have been thriving in eBay, but now they're thriving on Poshmark with women's clothing, or they're thriving with vintage clothing on Depop? Like, for example, I have a couple of friends of mine that are up in the Bay Area, and they did eBay because they listened to the podcast, and then they started doing Depop, and they just took off on Depop, right? Because Depop gave them the platform. Depop, involved them. Depop, gave them the opportunity to establish a network where, on eBay, they felt that they were just like one of many thousands of other vintage sellers where Depop actually like, cultivated that. And so, I think my thoughts here are, if you're selling like specifically vintage items, like I think you should still do eBay, but I think you should need to look at these other platforms and what they offer, because I think you might be able to, like, for example, these two guys that I know, they sell on Depop all day long because they've established a community. People are always waiting for their next drop. And so they drop new vintage items and they sell them quicker. Where if they're on, and they sell them for just as good money as they would on eBay, where if they're on eBay, they'd have to list it, promote it, free return, all that stuff, hoping to sell it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and it just goes back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast. I think all of these other platforms are just going to take vertical slices, right? eBay's got the whole pie, and then these other people are coming in and like, we'll take this slice of the pie, we'll take this slice of the pie. So yeah, those other platforms may not be the everything store in that sense, the way eBay kind of is. But if they can just really control that niche, even if they only take 20% of that niche, right? It could be devastating to the market. And you see that, like, I mean, there's a reason why our fees continue to go up. And again, I'm not complaining about that aspect of it. I mean, it sucks. It is what it is. Sure, prices have gone up no matter what. If you're a brick and mortar store, your fees have gone up. But it makes sense that eBay has to tap into the pockets of their sellers more, because they've lost tens of millions of users on their platform over the last 5 years. So if that's the case, like, of course, they're going to have to find a way to keep it. Companies need to grow every year. And so if they're losing customers and they still need to increase their bottom line, well, there's only one way to do that. And so, yeah, I think you can look at it and say like, well, Poshmark is never going to just like slay this Goliath that is eBay. But man, if all these little companies are coming up and just taking bites out of it, like, eventually eBay is going to struggle. It's going to fall. And that could be, I mean, that'd be really bad for us. I want to see eBay do well. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where if eBay does well, all of us who are selling on eBay are going to do well. And if eBay does well, all these other platforms that are innovating are going to have to innovate harder. Like they're just going to have to, well, dang, we got to keep up in the ante if we want to get more of these customers coming to our platform. So it's not a bad thing. It's just, again, I think it goes to that idea of, I think those other companies can do better in their field than eBay could do, because like I said, they're more nimble, right? It's like they have the flexibility, they can adjust, they can change things. They don't have the massive infrastructure that it's like moving a ship, right? Like if you're trying to move a little kayak, it's easy, right? Back and forth. Every stroke it's turning. If you're trying to move a huge like ocean liner, that thing's not moving for a while. Like it's going to take a while to turn. And so I think that's what we're dealing with is these other little companies. They're more nimble. They can innovate. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely reason to jump on those other ships, but without abandoning eBay, right? Like that's why something like Vindu is useful, or just cross posting in general, or just finding out where you fit.
Yeah. And the last one here is the local marketplaces. And obviously Facebook Marketplace did not take off as everybody thought, when they announced like 2 years ago, we're going to have storefronts and all this. But I do think they are definitely like an alternative if you want. We have a friend of the podcast is developing an app even right now, which we discuss in the future here, where you can like just, if people want to offload other stuff, right? Like, and so be aware of that, where like, Facebook Marketplace right now, like you can find a lot of stuff where you can just offload your stuff real quick. You go to a garage sale and you find some scores and you want to sell them locally, like you could do it locally, right? Or you could do this on OfferUp. And so they've taken some of that, right? OfferUp before was OfferUp and Let Go, and then they combined, right? OfferUp, I think, bought out Let Go, and then they offered shipping, and now you can ship items, right? And so here's one other piece of pie. And so maybe you want to sell it locally, but you're like, if somebody really wants to buy it, I'm willing to ship it, then you have that option now. Where before you couldn't have that option on OfferUp. You couldn't have that option on Facebook Marketplace. And so now you have another way. Imagine if Craigslist started offering shipping, which I don't think they ever will. They have the same website they had since pre-2000. But what I'm saying here is that, there is a possibility for you to maybe sell things even for more, or maybe, to sell it locally and not have to deal with, because eBay local pickup, like I find it's very hard to do local pickup on eBay, because I don't know. It's weird. Like, I don't think of the first place to list when I think about something I want to sell locally. I don't think eBay is like the place. I think OfferUp's the place. I think Facebook Marketplace is the place. So all these things are telling me that, you know what, eBay is the primary way, but I'm not sure it's the one way to resell anymore. And I don't know, where do you land now, Mike, as we approach the end here?
I don't know if I can concisely state it. I feel like everything I said in the episode kind of holds true. I think eBay is great. I think eBay has problems. I think there's no easy solution to the problem, but as resellers, you got to find what works for you. I think it'd be unwise to leave eBay, but I think it would also be unwise. I think it'd be unwise to not at least attempt to utilize other platforms and diversify as much as you can.
Yeah, agreed. So let us know in the comments if you haven't yet liked this podcast and if you've listened to the end. Make sure to hit that like, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. You can find us on all social media. We are PUREHUSTLE Podcast or PUREHUSTLE Cast on Twitter. And let us know in the comments, where do you land on this? Is eBay? Do you need to say just focus on eBay? Are we steering people the wrong way by saying eBay isn't the only way, or do you think that now is the time that you have to adapt and you have to find that you need a list on Poshmark, you need to list on Depop, you need to try to sell things locally, because right now things are just not happening on eBay? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for everybody tuning in, and as always, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling.
Peace.